Hello friends, and welcome to another Star Wars Galaxies technical video. Today we're going to talk about armor and mitigation, and also armor piercing. So I know I said I was going to talk about combat states, but I'm still working on that part of the spreadsheet, so that's not quite ready yet. Actually got to spend a little bit of time with the spreadsheet today, and we're going to build it up as we find things to add to it. It's kind of disorganized right now and kind of a mess, so we'll tie it together as it goes. But I'm giving you guys read-only access to this so that you can view what we're talking about. So what we have here is, let's talk about armor. Well, first, let's talk about mitigation. There are two types of mitigation that you get as skills in the game: ranged mitigation and melee mitigation. They decrease damage based on whatever type of mitigation it is. So if it's a ranged mitigation, you reduce the damage incoming by a certain amount based on which one you have, and not all of them get 3. So one thing to keep in mind is some only get 1 or 2, and then the other one will get melee mitigation 3, but only range mitigation 2. So that's not entirely uncommon to see that your template may not have ranged mitigation 3 and melee mitigation 3. It may have 3 in one, 2 in the other, or 2 in one, 1 in the other. It just depends on how you build your character. But as you look through the skill sheet, you will see what you get based on your attributes for certain boxes. Now, what mitigation does is it reduces the difference between the min-max damage on an attacker's weapon. So mitigation will always use the highest level of mitigation that you have that applies. And it should apply no matter what weapon you use. So if you have, let's say you have a dual melee template, but you're not done. So one you have melee mitigation 2, and the other you have melee mitigation 3. It will apply melee mitigation 3 regardless. At least that's how it's supposed to work. I have not really previewed the code on live for combat, which I would like to actually do at some point, but I have not had time to browse that yet and figure out the formulas. So basically, mitigation is a 20% reduction in damage. Let's just make it as simple as possible, because we're trying to keep this basic for right now. And what I think you need to understand before we get to more complex things like states is you need to understand what damage reducers are. So mitigation reduces your damage by 20% each level. So at 1 it's 20, at 2 it's 40, and at 3 it's 60. Now they don't stack, so you won't end up with 120 when you have 3. You'll just have 60. So, oh, and by the way, if you can't read the spreadsheet through the video, follow the link in the description and you'll be able to open it for yourself. It's just a Google Drive spreadsheet, sheets, so you'll be able to see it. Mostly right now it's text-based, even though I have actually put the combat formula in there. It doesn't compute anything yet, but my goal is to go in here and actually make this workable so you can put in your speed mod, your weapon speed, and your combat speed and get all your information out. I just need to show you how to get that info the way it can be used in the formula. So that's a to-do later, but it is in there because I didn't want to lose it after I found it. And I also need to verify that this is pre-CU and not post-CU or NGE. I think it might have the wrong formula. So we'll figure that out. I have a listing of the states, but I've not defined the states themselves. I will do that, and then we will have a state video. But before I got there, I thought you might need to understand how armor works. So we talked about the different damage types yesterday. how different damage types do different types of damage. And I know that sounds redundant, but the damage that you put out is based on your weapon and its type of damage. And I showed you how one of my pistols did energy damage and one of my pistols did acid damage. Armor has different rates of reduction based on that. So we'll get into more specifics about damage reduction or damage in armor, how that goes in a later video. That's a more complex factoring. But just know that if you're doing PvE, the majority of the damage you will take is kinetic. So the higher your kinetic value, the better off you're going to be for PvE, which is player versus environment, which is NPCs, monsters, etc. If they shoot things at you, then you're going to need to resist that particular damage type, which you'll come to recognize by seeing it. A lot of PvP uses stun and different types of blast damage and things like that. So PvP is an entirely different scenario, and I don't even know that we're going to cover recommended armor for PvE and PvP because I don't see much PvP going on Basilisk on a regular basis. So you just kind of have to find the best, most versatile armor you can find for what you can afford. Now, speaking of armor, there are 4 slots that you should fill, even though there are more slots you can have. So basically, to cover the very basics, you can get a trimmed down set, which makes it lighter for you to carry, so lighter for you to wear, and uses less of your handbar to wear the armor, as long as you have 1 head piece, 1 body piece, 1 leg piece, and 1 piece of limb armor, like a shoulder or a gauntlet or a forearm piece or something like that. Then you've got your basic hitbox covered. It's not going to protect you 100%. You're still going to take considerably more damage than in a full suit. But if your combat takes too long and you're running low on stats, especially mind, you probably need to reallocate your stats, and we'll cover that when we get to entertainer classes. But you will get the basic set, which you can usually find on Basilisk in Imperial Outpost. In a lot of the malls, they sell a really cheap set of armor that it just has 4 pieces in it. So if you ever see that, or you see somebody running around with basically 4 pieces of armor on, they're just covering the basic bare minimum they have to cover. And what that comes into play is that you get a general damage reduction in the area. So you won't get a full reduction, but basically you're as covered as you need to be. So if you put on all upper body armor and they shoot you in the lower body, then you're going to take a lot more damage. If you have a piece of armor, it helps reduce that. So just take my word for it. If you can't wear a full set, at least wear 1 piece of limb armor, 1 head piece, 1 body piece, and 1 leg piece, like boots and a chest piece and a helmet and a shoulder piece. And then you've kind of got a general armor set. Now, a full set is a little more expensive, but eventually when you're killing things fast enough and you're not taking a hit in your mind pool to kill things, because the problem when you start out, you need the armor, but the armor kills you faster than the creatures do because you take so long to kill things that you're doing more actions to make things happen. So a mini set of armor is your friend when you're starting. So the next thing is armor ratings. And you'll see this on some creatures. If you look at them and examine them, some you'll see have light armor, some have medium armor, some have heavy. And we'll define these as 1, 2, and 3. Now, some weapons have light, medium, and heavy armor piercing. Now, each level increases 25%, going up and down. So if you have an AP1 weapon, so light armor piercing weapon, and you use it against something with no armor, you get a 25% bonus in the damage that you do. If you fight something with, say, that same weapon and it has heavy armor, basically what happens is you drop it down one notch because you have a light armor piercing weapon against heavy armor rating. So now you've effectively basically turned it into a medium armor target. That gives you a 50% reduction in your weapon's damage. So straight off the top, not counting anything else, you are doing half the damage you normally would with that weapon against that particular target. But going the other way, if you have a heavy armor piercing weapon against a, say, a light armored target, well, that's going to drop you down one. So it's 50%, but you get a 50% bonus instead of, but if you do it against something that has no armor, you get a 75% increase. So light armor, heavy armor piercing weapon is a medium armor piercing weapon because that drops you down one, so you get a 50% bonus. No armor would give you 75 bonus. If it was the other way around, if you didn't have any and you were fighting something with heavy armor, you get a 75% reduction in damage. So knowing this basic fact, just that it's mitigation, armor piercing, and armor rating, should give you a little bit more understanding of how to prevent damage and what helps you prevent damage. And now that we've covered some of this, and this will tie in more later. If you watch this and it doesn't make you a lot of sense right now, we will demonstrate it more later, and I will go into more detail when we go into states. But I wanted you to understand how armor worked without going into the actual formulas of, say, 90% kinetic armor and what that means for you. It's a little bit more than I want to talk about today. We will get there eventually, but for now, I just want you to understand how armor piercing and armor ratings work, and I want you to understand how mitigation works. Now, this technically should have followed the combat states, but I'm not quite ready to talk about those yet, and I will probably have this filled out tomorrow to where I can describe the exact, because I do need to verify my information to make sure I've got it as correct as possible for you guys, as to what each state does as specifically as possible. Now, these are based on notes that I took through my time of playing, and unfortunately on some of it I did not mark the dates that the notes were from. So I have huge files of information that I'm trying to export and put into spreadsheets for you guys. This particular spreadsheet. This spreadsheet will actually be the master spreadsheet for everything. It will cover all of the items we talk about, and it will cover everything for every class that we need to put into a spreadsheet. Combat damage routines, formulas, things like that. So this will be something you want to bookmark rather than download. It will change regularly, and the reason I'm saying it will change regularly is because I'm sure some of you guys will correct me on some stuff and let me know if I've got something wrong, and I will try to remember to say this on every video, but the notes that I took were mostly taken when Star Wars Galaxies was live. We had no access to the code. things were done based on testing, supposition, guessing, things that the devs slipped up and told us. A lot of my information covers from beta all the way through, so the NGE when it shut down. I did not date code it because I didn't think I needed to. So some of this stuff may be NGE related without my knowing it. And if that's the case, I apologize. I'm not trying to mislead you. I'm just going off what I have for notes. And believe me, if somebody tells me I'm wrong and can provide me with a better reference for it, I will gladly change this. And that's why I tell you, do not download this, at least not yet. Let's get some development into it. Let's let this be open to comments. Let's go through and discuss things that I happen to get wrong, that we found out from actually having the code from Basilisk, if you guys have reviewed that. I know a few people have, so I've had some discussions with some people who have looked pretty intensely in there. So if you guys know something that I've gotten wrong, by all means tell me. I'm not afraid to admit when I make a mistake, and everything that I'm telling you, if it is wrong, is simply either miscalculated, a mistake, or something that did not transition from live to the emulator, and I will gladly correct it. And I will gladly make a correction video to tell you what I did wrong once we maybe have to summarize some of those if I do make a significant number of mistakes, God forbid. But if I do, then I will be happy to, let's make a video and say, hey, these are the things that I got wrong. I'm sorry. I want to draw your attention to them, and just make a list about it. And I will put them all out when we get enough to make a video. But check out the link. Check out the spreadsheet. If you guys want me to do a table on something that's confusing you or interesting to you, or you think of something you want to talk about, drop it in the comments. Send me a message, private message. You can do it here. You can do it on any of the social media sites that I'm on. I don't mind one bit. I did notice that YouTube had some weirdness where it told me I had a comment on a video, and I went and looked at it, and there was nothing there at all. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. So they're not the most reliable message transfer system, I would say. So sending me a private message is usually the best way. And by all means, contact me if you need to talk about it. Anything whatsoever. I don't mind. But we're going to take this spreadsheet and we're going to flesh it out, and we're going to build it up into something that's worthwhile to carry forward. And it's going to have all the class tables in it for the things you need to know. Each class will probably end up with its own tab as we cover it. I just need some time to put it together, and this is why we're not doing the Galaxy stream right now, so that I can build this information. I would have more of it done, but work has been a little bit pressing lately, so I have not been able to focus on this. I've been having to do other things instead and catch up when I get home. So I'm throwing this out there. This is the first video with the actual small, right now, spreadsheet, but will be growing. I want to give you guys the link so you can bookmark it, and ask for your suggestions and comments. Throw them at me. Throw them at me. Why can't I say that? Oh well. It's going to be one of those nights, I think. Anyway, I want you guys to take it easy. I appreciate every one of you for watching my videos. If you're not a subscriber, by all means subscribe. We got a lot of heavy-duty content we're going to go through here. Once I get my notes organized a little bit better, because I have 10 years of notes or whatever, and they were not done in a format that I expected to do them, where I would have to spit them back out to somebody else. So a lot of it's shorthand, a lot of it I'm really wondering what I was thinking. A lot of it was done at 2 o'clock in the morning on a work day, so things like that. But we're getting there. Anyway, I will try to continue to come out with these videos about something at least every day, so that we can build on this. But subscribe, because it's only going to get more in-depth every time we go through a certain facet of the game. And some of you guys are newer, and I don't want to leave you behind, even though you could easily go back and catch up. Subscribe to the channel so that you can stay on top of it. You know when a new video comes out. And or just, link my playlist for Star Wars Galaxies. Everything goes in there, so you'll see it when it comes up. If you like this video, it's a little short, it's a little lighter on information than I wanted it to be, but it gets the basics covered, and once we get out of the basics, we're going to get into more theory crafting and formulas and macros and stuff, and I'm going to add a macro sheet into the spreadsheet that has all the macro commands, and then another sheet with suggested macros, and then we're going to go over that. It's easier than trying to view them in the game. So we'll do it through this spreadsheet because you could have it in front of you while we're talking about it. So anyway, bookmark the spreadsheet, subscribe, like the video, and I will catch you guys later. See ya!